Welcome to the Quiet Exit podcast, where UK business owners find clarity, confidence, and calm as they think about stepping back. No noise, no pressure, just the next chapter done right.
Hello, and welcome to the Quiet Exit podcast. I'm Stephen McConaughey. This space is for UK business owners who are quietly thinking ahead to what comes after or what could come next. Today we're exploring a fear I hear more than almost any other, but it's rarely said out loud. They'll struggle without me, won't they? It's not vanity, it's not arrogance. It's often born from deep care and even deeper responsibility. Because if you've spent years being the one who fixes, leads, decides and protects, stepping back can feel like letting the rope go mid-climb. In this episode, we'll explore that fear calmly. We'll unpack how healthy leadership can become quiet dependency, and how to shift your role without making the team or yourself feel lost. And if you'd like a companion tool for this episode, it's called the Founder Dependency Radar. Inside the Quiet Exit Club at epitomecapital.co.uk/quiet-exit-club. But for now, breathe. You're not alone in this. Let's begin the reflection together. There's something unspoken in most owner-led businesses. It's this: everything works because I do. You might not say that aloud, but you feel it. Staff ask before acting. Clients want your input directly. Suppliers defer to you. And truthfully, it feels good to be needed. Until it starts to feel like a trap. A quiet resentment builds. You ask yourself, why can't anyone just take initiative? But deep down you know why. Because you've trained them to rely on you. You did it through care, through speed, through efficiency. And now you're exhausted, but essential. This is the dilemma. You want to step back, but fear it will all collapse if you do. That's not leadership, that's quiet imprisonment. And today, we're going to gently explore how to change that, without blame and without shame. Let me introduce you to Mark. Mark ran a high-performing design and print company in the Northwest. 45 staff, strong cash flow. But he was a bottleneck for everything. From supplier negotiations to client onboarding, it all ran through him. When we first spoke, he told me, I'm proud of what I've built, but terrified to take even a week off. That's not sustainable. It's not healthy for him or his business. We started with one shift, identifying invisible dependency. This meant naming the tasks only Mark could do. Not because others couldn't, but because no one had been shown how. It was a long list, but it wasn't impossible. Over 6 months, we structured phased delegation. Not all at once, not top down, but relationally, based on trust. Mark didn't disappear, he gradually receded. And something incredible happened. His team didn't fall. They stepped up because he finally gave them permission to. Let's pause here for a mindset shift. Most sellers think that letting go means losing control. But here's our opinion. Letting go doesn't remove influence. It amplifies it if done well. Think of a conductor in an orchestra. They don't play every instrument, but their presence shapes the sound. And your business is no different. If you've built trust, culture, and rhythm, then your influence will continue, even if you step off the podium. But that means preparing others. It means rehearsing, not disappearing. And that's what we'll get into next. Here's a framework we call Shed, Share, Shadow. It's a 3-phase approach to reducing dependency without panic. Phase 1. Shed. List out every task you still handle personally. Which of those are you holding on to unnecessarily? Start shedding with support. Phase 2. Share. Choose team members who can grow into leadership. Don't just assign, mentor. Share context, not just tasks. Phase 3. Shadow. Reverse the model. Let them lead while you observe. Not to judge, but to affirm. This phase builds confidence, theirs and yours. You realise it's not all on you anymore, and they realise they're capable. You've just never stepped aside long enough for them to prove it. Let's stay with that thought for a moment, because this is where many sellers freeze. Not because they don't trust their team, but because they've never seen them without their safety net. It's like teaching someone to swim while never letting go of their hand. At some point you have to step back, or they never discover they can float. Let's go deeper into what actually creates founder dependency, because it's rarely about ego. It's often about legacy. Sellers care. They don't want to see their life's work unravel, so they tighten the grip, hold decisions close, and silently say, "I'll just do it, it's quicker." But here's the issue. Speed kills succession. Every time you step in instead of stepping back, you train your team that they're not trusted. You build dependence, one quick fix at a time. Over months or years, that becomes cultural. It becomes normal. And then when you finally say, "I'm thinking of stepping back," the panic kicks in. Not because your team is incapable, but because they've never had the space to try. So let's turn the lens inward for a moment. Ask yourself this. Where am I choosing speed over sustainability? Where are you doing something because it's easier, not because it's best for the business long term? And what's the actual cost of that? Yes, it feels efficient, but it's quietly stalling growth, both yours and theirs. Now I want to offer a story, one I think about often. It's about a seller called Kareem. He ran a specialist manufacturing firm in East London. Incredibly sharp, deeply respected, but deeply embedded. He wasn't just the MD, he was the engineer, problem solver, the backstop. When he considered selling, he said, I don't think anyone else can hold this place together. We didn't rush. We sat with that belief. And I asked him, what if it's not true? What if they just haven't had the chance? He paused, then said, honestly, I'm scared to find out. That was the beginning of something. Not a sale, not a recalibration. Over 18 months, Kareem did 3 things. First, he named his role publicly. Not just his title, but what he actually did each week. Second, he documented his decisions. Every time he stepped in, he wrote a quick note on why. Patterns started to merge. It wasn't that the team lacked skill, they lacked permission. And third, he shared the baton. In team meetings, he started asking, how would you handle this? Then he listened, without correcting. 6 months later, one of his senior staff pulled him aside and said, you've always had our backs, but now it feels like you trust us too. That's the shift. Not stepping away overnight, but stepping aside with intention. And when the eventual exit came, business didn't crumble. It thrived. Kareem still consults occasionally, but now he travels. He sleeps better. And he told me recently, the best thing I built wasn't the business. It was a team who didn't need me to hold it up. Let that land. Because that's what makes an exit feel earned, not just executed. He didn't just build a business. He built belief in others. And when you do that well, stepping back doesn't feel like abandonment. It feels like legacy. Let's take this a level deeper. Because what we're really talking about is control. And control isn't always loud. Sometimes it hides in care. You care about quality. You care about clients. You care about culture. So, you intervene. You double check. You correct. You adjust. And from the outside, it looks noble. An honour rarely shows up. But underneath, it's a form of anxiety management. Business feels like an extension of you. So if something goes wrong, you feel wrong. That's not unusual. It's deeply human. But here's the thing. That loop of care turning into control prevents your team from growing up. They never get to own the win, or the mistake, or the learning. You're carrying a backpack that no one else is even allowed to touch. Let's try something here. A thought experiment. Imagine you went on an unplanned 6-week sabbatical. No Wi-Fi, no check-ins. What would break? What would thrive? And most importantly, what would surprise you? This isn't just a fantasy, it's a leadership audit. It helps you see where you've over-attached and where the business might already be stronger than you think. Because one thing we've found across every quiet exit is this. The business will often rise once you stepped to the side. Not because it didn't value, but because space creates growth. Let me offer a short story. This one's about a woman named Helen. She ran a logistics company in the Midlands, built from scratch. Hard-earned success. But she was involved in everything. Quoting her directly, "I feel like the human firewall. If I'm not watching, stuff slips through." And I asked her gently, "What if you're actually causing the slippage by trying to watch it all?" And that question hit hard. She paused. Then she smiled. "You might be right," she said. Over the next 3 months, she stopped replying to non-urgent emails. She delegated 80% of decisions to her senior team, with a caveat. You don't have to get it right, but you do have to own it. Something shifted. Morale went up, turnaround times improved, and our team started proposing ideas she'd never thought of. One day our operations lead came into our office and said, "You stepping back told me you believed in us. I didn't realise how much I needed that." That's leadership, not the loud kind, the kind that listens, lets go, and trusts that growth can happen without interference. Let me ask you, where are you accidentally preventing growth by overprotecting it? Where might your absence create space, not stress? If you're feeling tense as I say that, that's a good sign. It means this matters. And that means you're ready to explore what comes next. Not just for your business, but for yourself. We'll step into that in the next section. Not with pressure, but with quiet intention. Take a breath, let this settle. We're just over the halfway mark now. In the next 5 minutes, they're all about preparing for a handover that feels human. One that doesn't just work on paper, but in your gut too. Because letting go isn't about walking away. It's about setting something down and knowing it's still in good hands. Let's move into the moment every seller secretly rehearses, the handover. In your head, it might look like this. You're sitting across from a new MD, a team watching, a client calling at just the wrong moment, and your inner dialogue kicks in. Will they get this right? Will they care as much? Will they crumble without me? The answer is complex, because care isn't transferable, but culture is. What you've built over decades isn't just systems and spreadsheets. It's an emotional architecture. And here's what we think most people miss. The more clearly you've embedded values, the less your presence is required. I'll say that again. The stronger your culture, the less dependent it becomes. For this next phase, your exit isn't about disappearing. It's about designing a culture that holds firm when you're not in the room. Let's look at what that actually means. We use a 3-layer handover model. Principles, patterns, and people. Principles. These are the non-negotiables. The beliefs that drive decisions. like we never oversell, or we always call clients before emailing bad news. Patterns. These are your rhythms, the team meetings, the check-ins, the way new hires are welcomed. People. This is your trust layer. Not just who does what, it's who holds what energy, morale, standards. When we help sellers design exits, we always start with a cultural audit. Not a profit and loss, not a CRM log. We ask, what does this company feel like? What holds it together? Because that feeling is what needs to survive the transition, not just the figures. One seller we worked with, Malcolm, had a fiercely loyal team. His people stayed for years. Clients referred new work out of trust in him. But as we approached the transition, we realised something. The loyalty was personal, not cultural. They trusted Malcolm, not the business model. And that's fragile, and Malcolm knew it. So we worked with him over 6 months to shift the anchor. From personality-led to principle-led. He started narrating the decision-making more openly, explaining the why behind every yes and no. Slowly, others began doing the same. By the time he exited, it wasn't, what would Malcolm do? It was, what do we do in this situation? That's the mark of a mature culture, when values outlive the founder. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know if my business is ready for that shift? Try this. Take a situation you recently handled. Staff dispute, client escalation, a difficult supplier conversation. Ask yourself, could your team have made the same call for the same reasons without you? If the answer is no, that's okay. It just means your principles haven't yet become shared instinct. And the good news? That's teachable. Not overnight, but through what we call progressive unavailability. Start stepping back deliberately, one context at a time. Let the team run the monthly review. Let the ops lead field client renewal. Watch what happens, then coach, don't correct. Because that's how you pass on power. Not by hoarding knowledge, but by releasing permission. When your team feels trusted, they grow. When they grow, the business becomes sustainable. And when that happens, you no longer have to be the gravity. You can become something lighter. We'll explore that in the next section. A shift from central role to quiet guide. Because letting go doesn't mean letting it all fall. It means letting others rise. There's a moment, somewhere in the exit journey, where you realise you're no longer needed in the same way. Not unwanted, just not essential. And for some owners, that realisation lands like relief. But for others, it stings. Because when you've been the engine for so long, silence feels like absence. But what if silence also meant stability? That's the identity shift we help owners navigate. From indispensable to quietly influential. We call this the move from centre stage to architect in the wings. a role many sellers haven't imagined. It's one of the most liberating forms of legacy there is. Let me share what that looks like in practice. We worked with a seller named Tom. Tom ran a specialised manufacturing business in the northeast. The staff joked that if Tom ever took a week off, the place would catch fire. He laughed along, but secretly, he believed it too. So, when he began thinking about an exit, his biggest fear wasn't valuation or timing. It was that the whole thing would collapse without him. We introduced him to the architect principle. Here's how it works. Instead of pulling away all at once, you start laying foundations for a business that functions beautifully in your gentle absence. You shift your energy toward mentoring future leaders, embedding shared rituals, documenting core decision frameworks, and modelling healthy detachment. For Tom, this started small. He created a "Why we do it this way" manual, a short internal guide that walked through the philosophy behind their operations. It wasn't a technical SOP, it was cultural DNA. Then he started leaving the team huddles a few minutes early. Not to be dramatic, but to signal, "I trust you to finish this." By month 3, we'd stopped waiting for him to wrap the meetings. By month 5, we were solving issues before he even heard about them. Tom didn't feel sidelined. He felt free. He told me something I'll never forget. I used to believe leadership meant holding the whole weight. Now I see it's about creating a structure that stands when you let go. That's the essence of this episode. You don't exit by removing yourself. You exit by strengthening what remains. You show, not tell, your team that independence is a gift you give, not a gap you leave. But here's the catch. To make that leap, you have to do one uncomfortable thing. You have to ask, what part of this business still depends on me? Write it out. Is it you approving every purchase? Is it your name that unlocks client renewals? Is it you who calms the mood when tensions rise? Once you name it, you can design around it. Create a buffer, build a ritual, assign a shadow. Give others space to step into your shoes, even if they stumble. That stumble is the beginning of stability. Because here's the paradox of ownership. The more you hold on to being needed, the harder it is to let your business grow without you. But the more you become a quiet architect, a steward of systems, a mentor of people, a modeler of detachment, the more your legacy becomes unshakable. Letting go doesn't mean fading. It means rising above the day-to-day. To build something that lasts. Thank you for sitting with us today. This episode stirred something in you. That's not a problem to fix. It's a sign that you care deeply about what you've built and about who's going to carry it forward. That care is powerful, but it doesn't have to mean control. It can mean stewardship, mentorship, quiet trust. Letting go without letting down. And if your team does struggle a little without you at first, that's not proof of your irreplaceability. That's the final lesson you get to teach, and the last gift you give. Because you're not leaving them with a void. You're leaving them with your example. One that says, you are capable, you are ready, you are trusted. That's leadership in its highest form. And you don't need to be there daily to live it out. You just need to pass it on, intentionally. At Epitome Capital, we don't just acquire businesses. We support owners through this exact transition. Because while the spreadsheet may say exit, the seller's heart is saying, will they be okay? We take that seriously. We believe in continuity, in calm transitions, in honouring what the founder started, without needing them to carry it forever. So if you're at this stage with this question, they'll struggle without me, won't they? It's circling in your mind. You don't need to silence it. You need space to explore it. That's exactly why we created the Quiet Exit Club. Inside, there's a resource called the Dependency Detangler. It's a practical but gentle tool to help you assess where your team truly relies on you and where they're already stronger than you think. It's not about forcing yourself out, it's about stepping back with clarity and leaving confidence behind. You can access it quietly at epitomycapital.co.uk/quiet-exit-club. No noise, no sales pitch. Just the next thoughtful step, if and when you're ready. And before we wrap up, if today's episode gave you one idea to carry forward, one new way to see your role, your team, or your future, let that be enough. Because transitions aren't built in a rush. They're shaped, over time, by better questions, quieter confidence, and a deep respect for what's already working. You don't have to be everything to everyone. You just have to model what letting go with grace looks like. And that might be the greatest act of leadership yet.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Quiet Exit. If you're quietly thinking about your next chapter, you're not alone, and you don't have to figure it out publicly. For more resources, private insights, or to learn how we support legacy-first exits, visit epitomycapital.co.uk/quiet-exit-club. Until next time, stay clear, stay calm, and keep moving quietly.